and welcome to our reading and writing video. We just want to tell you a little bit about how we do reading and writing and phonics at Bisley School.
So what is phonics? Phonics is probably a word that you might have heard from family members, older siblings, if you have them in your family, and just in the wider world. Phonics is one way that we teach children to read and write. Each of the letters has a sound that is associated to them, and we teach them how to make that sound, what the sound looks like, and how we write that sound as well. There is a special order, it's not the alphabet, and in your packs that you'll have sent home, you will have the sound sheet with the rhymes on the back that you can then use to help your children along with their reading and their phonics.
So, how do we teach phonics at Bisley? We use a program called Read Write Inc, which is just another way of teaching phonics. When we start doing phonics, we will teach a variety of sounds every week, and your child will learn how to recognise the sounds, read the sounds, blend the sounds, and eventually write them individually and write them together as words. And we have a special friend called Fred Frog, and he helps us with our blending and our segmenting. So, for example, if I wanted to blend the word mat, I would use my Fred fingers, and I would give each finger one sound in that word. At, mat. I could do it a different way. Maybe Fred will jump. He might jump each sound. At, to make it nice and visual. He might be very silly and touch the ceiling for each sound. Who knows what Fred will get up to?
There are different sorts of sounds, and we will tell your children the sounds when they are learning those sounds. So first of all, we've got just individual sounds, we've got phonemes, but later on they will come to digraphs. A digraph is just two letters that makes one sound. So for instance, O, which is in the word snow. They will go on to trigraphs, which are three letters that make a sound. So in more complex words like sure, the sound would be y, and that would be three letters to make one sound, a trigraph. And also split digraphs. Now these will have a letter missing in the middle, which is quite tricky to explain, but the children do actually get to know them quite well and find them quite amusing as they become more confident with the sounds.
Yeah, you might know them as the magic eh or the magic e at the end of the word that changes the sound. That's what I learnt them as.
Yes.
But yeah, so they're a bit alien words, aren't they?
Yes.
If you have done any reading about phonics as well, you might have heard the word grapheme, which is just what a letter looks like. So a phoneme is the sound that it makes, and a grapheme is what it looks like. When we come to writing, especially when we come to segmenting, which just means sounding out words, so as Mrs Humphries said, like cat, if you read it, you would blend it together by going k-at. But if you wanted to write it, you would say cat, or what sound is first, k, what comes next, what comes at the end, t. When we are writing them, in your pack you'll see as well, each of the letters has a little rhyme. So for example, which is one of the first ones we learned.
I think we should say it together. Maisie, mountain, mountain.
Or another one that they learned very early on is and that one is nice, round the apple
and down the leaf.
And when we start learning the tricky digraphs and trigraphs, they have a nice little rhyme as well. So A and Y, which make an A sound, becomes A, may I play. Two E's together, so an E and an E, make a E, what do you see? Or like the one on the PowerPoint, O and a W, O, blow the snow. When we do the phonics, please do watch the videos that we have, or watch any videos online, because we're trying to get the pure sounds, as some children start to say the sounds incorrectly. So for example, so our M, they'll say ma, which obviously is not the correct sound. They're adding an onto the end. Or s for S instead of sa. So if you are at all unsure, please do look on
the Bisley Home Learning YouTube channel, and they're all recorded on there, so you can get a sneaky preview if you want to.
or just come and ask an adult from the reception team as well. We'll be more than able to help.
So, what can you do to help at home? Well, we would love for you to be just playing games, anything you can think of at home with sounds. Whether you have some actual board games which have some sounds in them, or puzzles or anything that might have sounds in them that you can talk about and play with, that's brilliant. But you could also do it when you're just out and about. You could be sound spotters. You could even looking at things like number plates on a car. Oh, what letters can you see there? Can you see the S? Or we're going to the shop. Where are we going? Oh yes, that's right, we're going to the shop. We're going to go to the shop in the car. Or maybe you could say, pass me the ball, or anything like that. Just constantly be talking about sounds, reminding them of the sounds that are all around them, and putting them together into words, blending them.
I Spy is a fantastic way of playing this when you're out and about. I spy with my little eye, something beginning with, and obviously use the sounds as opposed to the letter name, or even I hear with my little ear, something beginning with. So
yeah,
that's another game that you can play, which is really, really easy, doesn't take any resourcing by you, and just really immerses them in these new sounds that they're going to be learning.
Okay, reading at home. Now, to begin with, we'll send home books which contain only pictures or simple repetitive sentences, and the children should be encouraged to talk about the pictures, and we'll say a bit more about that later on. Point to the words and join in the reading with them, and with the adult. When your child is confident and happy, then you will be reading alongside them. Gradually, you could drop off and let them take over at the end of the sentence. That works very well, strategy we use in class. Make predictions about what's going to happen next, because that is a really good reading skill, is to actually think ahead in the story. It shows understanding, and also it allows their imaginations to take part in the story, to be involved. Also spot individual letter sounds. So if you know that maybe that they have already covered the and the sound, then look for those in the text. And it's something that they can do at a very early age. Your child will progress to phonic reading books when they can apply their knowledge of sounds. And it's very important that we do this at the right speed. It might not be the right speed for you, however. Sometimes the parents say, but the books are so boring. Well, unfortunately, they're not for us.
There's not many words you can make with at, st.
No. So you have to pretend, like we do, that they're really exciting.
And obviously continue to share the books that you would normally do anyway at bedtime. You know, that is still really important. They will also bring home in their book bags, or in their bags if they don't have a book bag, a home learning folder. The home learning that we do is reading and is phonics. So it will come home with their first reading books, and it will come home with the first set of sounds that we teach. It will also come home with some tricky words. So each week, again, when your child is happy and when they're ready, they'll get more of these tricky words. But these tend to be the words that come up very often in books. So maybe in, on, some of these repetitive words that are really good for your children just to know by sight, but also tricky words that they can't sound out. So I, for example, it's not I, it's I. My, for example, it's not y, it's my. He, she, we, me, be. All those ones which we tell them, well, that's an eh. But then, obviously, when they get to the tricky word, well, actually now it's making an E sound, but it's not two E's, so it can't be E, what do you see? So those are what we call tricky words.
They don't follow the rules.
They definitely don't.
Definitely don't. And they are a real pain in our English language, but the children, we do lots of games, lots of songs around them in school, and I'm sure the children will start to irritate you very, very soon with all the songs that we know, that we learn, but they love it, they do. So we do apologise for that in advance, because we do a lot of songs for our teaching. We do ask you to send those in every single day, because we sometimes send extra information home, We also may be able to do some extra reading with your child in school, and we do plead that you try to keep the home learning folders away from water bottles.
Yes.
Because the paper and the water,
please.
they don't really mix together very well.
Books
Yeah.
are expensive, thanks.
Yeah.
So how do we become readers? Obviously it's quite a complex process, and we have to guide our children through it. So just to say that to become a fluent reader, it's really important to be able to decode the words, to understand how books work, so that you open a book at a certain point at the front and we read all the way through to the back. We have to understand how stories work and how non-fiction texts work, because stories are quite a different layout to non-fiction, and some children actually prefer non-fiction books, and some children prefer stories, and some just love both. And so all those elements are very, very important. And to actually be able to decode words, which is like that first part, there are parts of that we need to think about breaking down. So they need to be able to use phonic knowledge, but they also need the pictures. And we'll say a bit more about that in a second. We also need to be able to think about what word would make sense in a sentence. So when you're reading something, if you decode a word and you actually guess at it as something else, and then it doesn't make sense, that's okay, because you can actually make that quite fun with the child and say, read it again how they said it, and then sometimes, oh, it didn't make sense. That's a bit of a funny sentence. I wonder what word that could be. And then they can have another go without feeling any pressure. Understanding how books work is very important, that print is read left to right, and from top to bottom. And although that seems obvious to those of us who have been reading for a while, it isn't always obvious to a young child who's beginning reading. And also, finally, they're the knowledge of different types of books and characters and events and openings and endings. And a lot of that will be covered when they are sharing stories with you at home, ordinary bedtime stories. So, now, let me just say, this is about using the pictures, and I said we would come back to this. Have a look at the writing on the screen. What do you think this says? Have you any idea? Okay. Now we've got a picture alongside that same writing. Does that actually help you to understand the writing? The something had a something. This is what a child will experience when they're looking at print for the first time. They will look at that and they will just see letters in a row. They're not seeing the word, but the pictures will help them break that text down into something that makes sense. So it's really important to keep the pictures and use the pictures to help them.
Yeah, so as Mrs Stevens has just said, it is so important that we don't cover up the pictures, especially when children first start reading and they don't have many sounds which they can use to decode the words. Children will naturally use the pictures as clues and cues to find out what the words say, and they're included in the books for a reason. So, and they serve a very important purpose. They help the children to understand the book and to have a guess about what the book is even about. So you can use the pictures to encourage good storytelling. You could model it for them. You could say, oh well, look at the picture, I can see that this is happening, and maybe this, and you help them to develop their own narrative language. Especially when they first start reading. It's really important that we don't cover up the pictures and let them explore the book using the pictures.
Some children will naturally be very good at that and know that they can take meaning from the print of the pictures. Some children, we find that you will need to explicitly teach that skill. So, as we've said previously, to be able to say, oh, now they don't look very happy. I wonder why they're not feeling very happy. So you're having to prompt that, and eventually, that they will absorb that, they will take that on, and they will then develop that skill more independently. But for some children, it is not a natural skill, and it does take time, and we really do have to persevere and be patient and give them the time to explore those pictures themselves.
So, just to recap, we will try to read with your child every week, but we also request that you read with your child as often as possible, ideally every night. This could just be you sharing a bedtime story with them and getting them to think about those prediction questions, thinking about characters' feelings, who might be the good characters or, the nasty characters, that sort of thing. When you are reading with your child, please write a comment in the reading record, even if it's just a signature. That really gives us a clear indication as to how much practice your child's getting and if they may need any additional support in school. Please encourage your child to take care of their books. They are only paper, they are quite flimsy and fragile, and it's not a skill that everybody picks up unless it is taught, unless it is picked up on. And again, another request just to say, please bring in those book bags with their home learning folders every single day. We will, if we can, read more often than that with your child. Reading is a complex skill, so it does take time, it does take patience, and it should be fun. Children need encouragement and they need praise, and like we said earlier on in the videos, if your child does make for lack of a better word, a mistake, then you then repeat it and make a bit of a joke of it and make light of it, because what we don't want to do is get children who are then worried about taking a risk of their reading or making a mistake, and then that's really going to affect their fluency. And again, for you as a family, we do appreciate that family life is tricky and it's chaotic, and it's always going at a million miles an hour. So find a good time to read for you. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Some families and some children may prefer to read after bedtime or before they brush their teeth or when they're in their pyjamas. Well, I know Mr Stevens is actually a fan of reading in the morning.
Yeah, well, I know that some children last year found this much more suitable because they said their child was just too tired at night after school, which means they've been putting in 100%.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this video. We hope you found it helpful, but if you do have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can ask someone on the door in the morning or at the end of the day if it's a quick one, or you could write a note in the reading record communication book, or you can send an email to reception@bisley.surrey.sch.uk, and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.